from despair to success. Sophia sat on the edge of her small, dimly lit apartment, her head in her hands. She had just lost her third job in 6 months, her dreams of becoming an artist buried under the weight of unpaid bills and rejection letters. The city she had once moved to with such hope now felt cold and unforgiving. Her sketchbooks lay untouched, gathering dust, reminders of a passion that felt like a distant memory. On a particularly dark evening, when the walls of her loneliness felt insurmountable, she ventured out, seeking solace in the bustling streets. Wandering aimlessly, she found herself drawn to a small, unassuming cafe. Inside, the warm light and soft hum of conversation offered a refuge from the chaos outside. She ordered a coffee and sat near the window, pulling out her sketchbook for the first time in weeks. Tentatively, she began to draw, letting her pencil glide over the paper. She was so absorbed in her work that she didn't notice someone sitting at the table next to hers, watching her with quiet curiosity. Startled, Sophia looked up to see a man in his early 30s, his dark eyes filled with genuine admiration. He gestured toward her sketchbook. "Ethan, that's incredible. Sorry to interrupt, but your work, it's really beautiful." "Sophia, thanks." "Ethan, I'm Ethan." Sophia. For reasons she couldn't explain, she found herself opening up to him. She told him about her struggles, her dreams of being an artist, and how life seemed to conspire against her at every turn. Ethan listened intently, his gaze unwavering. "Ethan, I get it. I moved to this city to start my own business. It failed spectacularly. For months I felt like I'd made the biggest mistake of my life." "Sophia, what changed?" "Ethan, I stopped trying to do it all alone. I started asking for help, taking risks, and believing that failure wasn't the end, just a lesson." Sophia didn't know why, but Ethan's words struck a chord. They spent hours talking, and by the time the cafe closed, she felt a glimmer of hope she hadn't felt in years. Before parting ways, Ethan handed her a business card. "Ethan, I know someone who runs a gallery. They're always looking for fresh talent. Send them your work. No promises, but it's worth a shot." The next day, Sophia stared at the card, doubt creeping in. What if she sent her work and was rejected again? But Ethan's words echoed in her mind. Failure isn't the end, just a lesson. Summoning her courage, she emailed a few sketches to the gallery. To her astonishment, she received a reply within hours. The gallery owner loved her work and wanted to feature it in an upcoming show. Sophia was overwhelmed with disbelief and excitement. Ethan became her confidant and biggest cheerleader. As she prepared for the exhibition, he was there every step of the way, encouraging her when self-doubt crept in and celebrating her small victories. On the night of her gallery debut, Sophia stood nervously by her pieces as the room filled with people. Ethan arrived, his smile radiating pride. "You've got this," he said. The evening was a resounding success. Critics praised her talent, and several pieces sold. For the first time in years, Sophia felt like she was on the brink of something extraordinary. As they walked home under the city lights, Sophia turned to Ethan. "I couldn't have done this without you," she said. He stopped, looking at her intently. "Sophia, you've always had it in you. All I did was remind you of what you're capable of." Their eyes met, and in that moment the unspoken feelings between them became undeniable. Ethan leaned in, and when their lips met, it was as though the world fell away, leaving only the two of them. From that night on, their lives became intertwined. As Sophia's career blossomed, Ethan pursued his dream of starting another business, this time with the confidence he'd gained through their shared journey. They supported each other through every setback and triumph, their love growing stronger with each passing day. Years later, Sophia stood in a grand studio, her artwork displayed in galleries worldwide. Beside her was Ethan, now a successful entrepreneur. Together they had built a life that neither could have imagined during those dark days of despair. As they celebrated another milestone, Sophia's newest exhibit, Ethan took her hand, his eyes shining with love. "You know, if someone had told me back then that my biggest failure would lead me to you, I'd have called them crazy. But now, I wouldn't change a thing," he said. "From the depths of despair to the pinnacle of success, and every step of the way, we've had each other," Sophia replied. Their story wasn't just one of love, it was a testament to resilience, the power of belief, and the incredible transformations that can happen when two souls find each other in the darkest moments and decide to rise together. The years that followed their rise to success were nothing short of extraordinary. Sophia and Ethan became each other's anchor, their bond deepening as they built a life filled with love, laughter, and mutual respect. Yet, life had its own way of testing even the strongest of bonds. One crisp autumn morning, as Sophia prepared for her latest gallery opening, Ethan stumbled while reaching for a cup of coffee. It was a small moment, but it sent a ripple of worry through Sophia's heart. Ethan brushed it off with his usual charm, attributing it to stress or a late night. But as the weeks went on, the stumbles became more frequent, the fatigue more pronounced. Sophia insisted on a visit to the doctor. What began as a precaution turned into their worst nightmare. Ethan was diagnosed with a rare neurological condition that would progressively affect his motor functions and eventually, his ability to live independently. The news was a gut-wrenching blow. Sophia felt the air leave her lungs as the doctor explained the prognosis. Ethan, always the optimist, reached for her hand and squeezed it gently. "We've faced worse," he said softly, his voice steady despite the fear in his eyes. "We'll get through this," but Sophia wasn't sure how. She threw herself into researching his condition, finding specialists, and seeking treatments, desperate to do anything to save the man who had saved her. Ethan, meanwhile, tried to keep life as normal as possible, encouraging her to focus on her art, even as his health declined. One night, as Sophia worked on a painting, Ethan sat quietly watching her, his hands trembling slightly. "You know," he said, his voice breaking the silence, "you've always been my masterpiece." Sophia turned to him, tears welling in her eyes. "Don't say things like that," she whispered, her voice trembling. "We're not done yet. We still have so much to do." Ethan smiled sadly. "We do, but if time teaches us anything, it's to cherish what we have now. Promise me you'll keep creating, no matter what happens. The world needs your light, even if mine fades." Sophia couldn't hold back her tears. She knelt beside him, her hands clutching his as if holding on could stop time. "I can't do this without you, Ethan. You're my everything, and you're mine," he said, leaning down to kiss her forehead. "That's why I know you'll be okay. You're stronger than you think." As the months passed, Ethan's condition worsened. Sophia became his full-time caregiver, her days consumed by tending to his needs. Despite the strain, she refused to let her art fall by the wayside, drawing strength from the love they shared. Each painting became a testament to their journey, a tribute to the man who had believed in her when she couldn't believe in herself. One particularly difficult night, as Ethan struggled to speak, Sophia sat beside him, her hand resting gently on his. "Do you remember," she began, her voice breaking, "the first time we met at that cafe? I thought you were just some guy who didn't know what he was talking about." Ethan chuckled weakly, his eyes sparkling with fondness. "And I thought you were the most talented woman I'd ever seen, even if you didn't believe it yet." They shared a bittersweet laugh, the memory a flicker of light in the growing darkness. Not long after, Ethan passed away peacefully in his sleep, holding Sophia's hand. Her world shattered, the weight of his absence almost unbearable. For weeks, she couldn't bring herself to paint, the emptiness in her heart mirrored by the blank canvases in her studio. But one day, as she sat staring at a photograph of Ethan, his words came back to her. "Promise me you'll keep creating, no matter what happens." With trembling hands, she picked up a brush and began to paint. The strokes were tentative at first, but soon they flowed, each one infused with the love and grief she carried. She painted their story, the cafe where they met, the gallery that marked her breakthrough, the quiet moments of joy they had shared, and the struggles they had endured together. The resulting collection, titled "From the Depths of Despair to the Pinnacle of Love," became her most celebrated work. It toured internationally, touching the hearts of thousands who saw in her art a reflection of their own struggles and triumphs. Sophia found solace in the knowledge that Ethan's spirit lived on in her work. Though the pain of losing him never fully faded, she carried his love with her, a guiding light in her darkest moments. Years later, as she stood before a crowd at an exhibition's opening, a young woman approached her, tears in her eyes. "Your story saved me," the woman said. "I was ready to give up on my dreams, but your art reminded me that even in the worst times, there's hope." Sophia smiled, her heart swelling with a mix of sorrow and pride. "That's the power of love," she said softly. "It doesn't just save us, it inspires us to keep going." And in that moment, she knew that Ethan's legacy wasn't just in the life they had built together, but in the countless lives their love had touched. Through her art, their story continued to inspire, a testament to the strength of the human spirit and the enduring power of love.